Do men suffer from binge eating disorder, and do they experience the same as women? Well, that's what I thought I'd discuss today on my channel. So hi, I'm Vanessa McLennan, a hypnopsychotherapist working on all things binge eating and overeating. So if you like what you see today, please click on the subscribe button and click on the bell, and let's get talking about, do men and women experience the same symptoms with binge eating disorder? So do men suffer from binge eating disorder? Absolutely, yes they do. So with studies that I've looked at, with all eating disorders, about 3% will be men. But with binge eating disorder, what I've looked at is about 40 to 50% will be men. So that's, half. And that's just looking at several studies and just, making the average of those. So then it's the question of, do men know that they perhaps have a binge eating disorder? Are services set up for men? Because I know that a lot more women read all my social media posts, my blogs for instance, than men do. So it's a question of, why are perhaps more men not coming forwards, or are they coming forwards? Is it not as widely recognised for men? So here are some of what I've discovered, because I treat men as well as women, and in fact I have probably just as many men on my books as I do women. So here are some of the differences that I see between men and women. Lack of awareness. I think with a lot of men, well certainly some of the men who come to see me, there's a lack of awareness that they even, have a thing, let alone a thing called binge eating disorder, that they didn't realise, oh, there's a term and for what I actually have. A lot of men just think, that they thought that their eating was normal, or that they just ate too much, or they know that they perhaps, binge, but it might not have been such a big problem, or it is such a big problem, but there's a lack of awareness that, oh, I actually have an issue. I think a lot of men sometimes, and a lot of women, this is where they're the same, will try to push it under the carpet, or try to, not acknowledge it, or will try to deal with it themselves before reaching out. So I think then it's important to know, some of the overall symptoms of binge eating disorder are, it's eating a large amount of food in a short space of time. So this is, going way over past the point of feeling hunger. In fact, hunger doesn't even come into it. It's, they're full, you might not even acknowledge feeling full, but you just keep going way past that point. A lot of time eating is done in secret, so that you don't have to worry about people's judgment, or your own embarrassment. And then that's another thing, is like once you have eaten, and especially with a large amount of food, there are a lot of adverse feelings that come into it, with guilt, with shame and embarrassment. And you will be doing this on a regular basis, at least once a week, if not more, twice a week, 3 times a week. I think with men also, alcohol plays a part in that. Fix it. I find with a lot of men who come in to see me that they want this urge to fix it. Give me the solution, tell me what to do, fix it right now for me. And it's really not as simple as that, because if it was, you'd have done it by now. It's not as black and white, and I think a lot of men do look at it in a black and white, or this polarization of, okay, this is what I've got wrong with me, I don't quite know what I'm doing it, but just tell me what to do, and then it will all sort itself out. It's really not that easy. There's a lot of greyness to it. There are so many different causes to binge eating, and it's not a cause of it's not a case of simply, this is the cause, so let's work on that, and then this is, the solution. There are so many different thoughts, beliefs, of childhood, experiences growing up that all feed into it, and it is totally about exploring and unravelling it and working on each little knot that has caused it to help you, put it right. It's like that analogy of, your computer is running really, really slowly. What do you need to do? You may remove everything off the desktop, which represents, that's where you start, and perhaps a lot of people will go on a diet or try to fix it with diet. And of course then when that doesn't work with your computer system, you've got to look, at the hard drive, haven't you? I'm not very good at computers, but anyway. So you look at the hard drive and you look at when the programs were written, and a lot of the time they were written when that hard drive, was up and running well. But now that time has moved on, that hard drive is not as efficient and not as good, so it needs new reprogramming. And that's just like us. We need to go back, look at the hard drive, look at all of those programs, which are 101 programs, look at what comes up, what we need to tweak, and that's what helps you in the binge eating. And sometimes that can take time. What's socially acceptable? I think for women, weight is quite a big thing. We will see there's loads of billboards around everywhere, magazines with half naked women, and I think there's this expectation that women, have to look good in their bikini, and a lot of, their self-worth and the whole beauty industry is tied in to a woman's, body. Where I don't think with men that is so prevalent, even though it's catching up, but it's not as big a thing. And I think, what's also socially acceptable is if women are having issues with their weight, or, just not feeling so good about it, a lot of the time they will talk to other women. So a lot of women find it easier to perhaps form, social networks or support groups. So they might talk to their friends about it. They might, go on Facebook or somewhere and have groups about it, or go to, Weight Watchers, somewhere like that. And so hence you will form other friends who are perhaps going through the same issues as you, and that makes it easier to deal with. Whereas I don't think men have those same networks. They don't go out and form those friendships or find other men that are suffering from the same issues that they have. It's just not as easy for them. And in fact, a lot of men's social life is perhaps going down to the pub or going out in big groups, drinking. And so, of course, can you imagine, alcohol then is playing a big part in that. And, a man in the middle of that drinking group, stands up, it's like, oh, I've got an eating disorder, I suffer from binge eating. There's a big fear there, which other men would be laughing at them, or, calling them derogatory names, calling them, names for the female anatomy, for instance, because they've stood up and have said that they've got this issue. Now that's probably, the bravado in front of the group. So it's just not as socially easy for men to talk about some of their issues, I think, than it is for women. And that's what also then makes it difficult for them to recognise, oh, these are some of the issues that I've got, because they don't know other people where they can identify the same and similar issues. The experiences. What I do notice a difference between men and women is alcohol plays a larger part with men's eating than it does women's. This is very generic talking. A lot of men will have issues, feeling that they have to go out in those groups and drink and keep up with other men, feeling that, alcohol provides a lot of the answers for them, a lot of the comfort for them, or ticks something inside. But with that comes either binge eating or comes a lot of eating the next morning, feeling hungover. Other than that, a lot of men and women have the same experiences and have the same, symptoms. They both want to binge, they both want to restrict. I find men perhaps don't want to restrict as much, but they have the same experiences with binging. It's the same types of foods with binging. You're either a savoury, or you're a sweet person. It's the same experiences. You can't stop it once you start going. There is still the level of, shame and embarrassment that goes with that. And, there's no difference between what really helps you to, heal this is the openness to go and explore within your mindset, to be curious as to why is that and what that's about. And I find sometimes, again, generally speaking, women just tend to be a little bit more open to that than men do. But when men start to connect a lot more with their emotions, a lot more with their bodies, and a lot more with their minds, that's where it gets really easy from them. I hope this helped, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts.